regular meeting of the Planning and Zoning Commission in Red Oak, held on Monday the 6th at 6:30 p.m. Make it 6:32. We are in the Ronald Reagan Room of the Municipal Center, 200 Lakeview Parkway, Red Oak, Texas. And we have some that may be joining us on video conference. In person, we have myself, Vice Chair Leroy Kleiss. I have Scott Lindsay, member, also James McLean, member, Karen Stanfield, member, and also Kevin Haley, alternate, is here. Staff is Ben Hartman, Director of Development Services, and Emma Chekua, Planning and Zoning Manager. This meeting has been posted. We do have a quorum present. We have a listing here of consent agenda. These are items that are listed, are considered to be routine by the Planning and Zoning Commission. Will be enacted with one motion. There will be no separate discussion of the items unless a commissioner or citizen so requests. In the event, the item will be removed from the consent agenda and considered in its normal sequence. The approval of the consent agenda authorizes the administrative official or designee to place each item on the City Council agenda in accordance with the Planning and Zoning Commission's recommendations. We have these two items here, the minutes and a plat. We have a motion. Motion by James to approve the consent agenda. Here, second. All in favor? Any opposed? This is approved. For new business, we are on number 3, conduct a public hearing and consider a specific use permit in Sand Development 85, revised PD 85R, zoning district to allow for an approximately 650 square feet accessory dwelling unit, ADU, on the property described as Lot 7, Block A of Cole Manor Addition and addressed as 213 Stonegate Way, City of Red Oak, Texas, Ellis County, CC 23-03, requested by Victor Martinez.
Thank you, Commissioners. The applicant is requesting to construct a 650 square feet accessory dwelling unit to house families. The structure will be located behind the existing home and will follow all minimum setback requirements. As shown on the attached plans, the exterior material accessory structure will be stone veneer, and the material and design are compatible with existing homes. So the city's zoning ordinance requires that any accessory dwelling unit that's applied for has to go before the Planning and Zoning Commission and City Council, which is a specific use permit process, so that staff can make sure and make that it's compatible with the home, the exterior design, and that it's compatible with the surrounding area. We can also let the owners know that they should verify with their homeowners association, which they have, that it's going to be appropriate to build this at the back of the site. And typically, accessory dwelling units, such improvements add value, increase the value of the lot. So staff recommends approval of the request. And I believe the designers on the
We'll conduct a public hearing, and we'll start off with those who are in favor of the item. We'll start with those who are here in person. If there's anyone here in person that would like to speak for the item, please state your name and address. We can do people online if there's anyone online. Anybody online that would like to speak for this item, state your name and address.
Mr. Reyes, would you like to speak on this item?
I'm sorry. I just had some issues with my microphone.
Okay,
can you hear me?
You can state your name and address if you'd like to say anything.
Okay, yeah, I'm here for 213 Stonegate Way.
Okay, did you have anything to add beyond what the, presentation showed?
No, I don't have any questions right now. I mean,
Are you speaking for this item, Mr. Reyes?
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you. What did you say?
Are you speaking in support of this item?
Yeah.
Okay. So Mr. Reyes at 215 is for this item. Thank you, Mr. Reyes.
The designer.
Oh, he's a designer?
Yeah.
Okay. We do have a couple more, letters. If there's anyone else in person, is there anybody against this item? We have two letters, that are supporting it, I believe. It says, planning and zoning, to whom it may concern, is our letter of intent to receive additional conditional, SUP permit for creation of an accessory dwelling unit, ADU for 213 Stowgate Way, as our residence. Our house is facing Stonegate Way. We work involved will be a separate unit from the main structure. It has 650 square feet total coverage proposed. It will not surpass the height of one of the main structure. In any way will be in conflict with our neighbors. The measurements and details are in the site plan with the plan package. Appreciate your attention to this project. If you have any questions, please reach out to Blanca Cardenas, the applicant, or Mario Reyes, gentleman who just spoke, the drafter that was speaking for it. Also, we have another one that just came in late. Good afternoon. We are for this request made by Victor Martinez at 213 Stonegate Way. Let us know if you have any questions. Clara and Jose Torres. They have an email address. I don't have their address. I don't think we have anyone else to speak for or against this item. We have a motion to close this public hearing.
Move to close this hearing.
Motion by Karen to close the hearing. Second. Second by James. All in favor? Opposed? Okay. Any discussion on this item?
Cole Manor.
Full manner. Location.
It'll be done later.
Yeah, we worked with the applicant to, ensure that it, match the home look. The goal of the ADU is always to, kind of make it look like it was, designed with the initial home. There's been a lot of push lately in the planning world to have a lot more access to ADUs, especially in places like Texas where, ADUs have been outlawed since the birth of Euclidean zoning, because it was automatically deemed as a two-family property if you've got two living domiciles on a singular property. So it always kind of fell in that, that multi-family instead of single-family, even though they're generally, used for, interfamily, actual. Yeah, but they can be rented out. Now our ordinance specifically prohibits that, to anybody who's not a blood relative. That's not really legal. The status is a protected class, right? You can't, so if I have an adopted son, he can't live there, that's crazy, right? So there are federal laws that protect against that type of thing. But our ordinance still says it, but, there's no way to really regulate or enforce that. And we don't allow separate utility connections to them. So it makes it more difficult for renting out, and kind of separating it. You still have to have marriage of the actual utilities. That kind of negate some of that, but, I would say, you know, especially on a property like this is no, size of these lots.
So they can't use it as an Airbnb in the future?
They technically can't, it's just a matter of, yes. But I would say, I don't know what the issue would be if it wasn't Airbnb. You know, like some of them, I've seen stuff on the news where, you know, they're throwing parties and all this, but man, it's your backyard. You're gonna put the kibosh on that really quick, right?
Well, I read an article the other day, and one of the examples that they had was somebody that built ADU. And they had moved themselves into it and then leased the house out. And basically what they were leasing the house out was making the house payment and the payment on the ADU and showing them the profit.
And allowing them to live in a space that was appropriate. You know, that's the other thing. Like, all your kids move out, you need 3,700 square feet? Probably not. So if you can if you and your wife can live in a, you know, 800 square foot ADU, that's an appropriate space for you, and then you can let a family enjoy the family home. And then you don't have to move. Well, yeah.
As long as they don't get caught.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
But that does allow, because, you know, one of the biggest problems, and I'm just soapboxing here, the biggest problems we see with, people not being able to downsize after their kids move on, is that you cannot find a nice enough home that, you know, you spend all this time building up your assets and building up your life, and then you say, well, I only need 1,000 square feet, or I only need 1,200 square feet, but all of the homes that were built at that size were built at a quality that you don't find acceptable, right? And so this way, you can build what you believe would be acceptable, so you can build a super nice ADU with all the trimmings and the finish that you want, and be on a nice property, especially like these big properties in Cole Manor, and still retain all that or have all that, whereas, you know, you can't build almost anywhere in the Metroplex. You're not allowed to build anything under 1,200, 1,400 square feet. So it gives that option. Again, that's beyond what this is, but broader discussion on to get into our zoning ordinance. It does create value, right? I mean, that thing's gonna cost them at least $120,000 to build. It's gonna show up on the tax rolls, and pay tax on it. I love it. I love talking about it. That's where it does that.
No separate parking or anything for it, it's just,
So we did ask them to, on the site plan, they added a parking spot for it. And this was actually the second iteration, I believe, of a site plan that we went through with them. Because, I think originally, where did they have it, like way off in the back or something? It was like way in the back corner up here, and it was actually.
Oh, yeah, the first one.
Yeah, in their septic spray field, which, you know, that's.
Or something else I was thinking of.
Yeah, and then there was no access to it, via sidewalk. So now they've moved it closer to the house, it's out of the spray field. It has a, you know, walking path to it, and then they've got an extra parking space, that they're gonna add here, just to ensure that, you know, you can still get out of the garage, if a car is parked up here, so they're adding this concrete.
So is there a walking path from the parking space to the ADU?
No, well, there is, but, I'm sorry, not from the parking space, but from the house.
To get through the house?
Yeah. Which again, kind of ensures.
What size lots are
familial
these?
status.
Yeah.
You know, should.
What size lots are these?
I think they're actually an acre. I think they're a full acre, their depth, they're really deep.
So not in regards to this, but just moving forward, is there something in our zoning laws to prevent someone from building 4 of these and basically making a
So there's many things. There's the amount of, well, let's talk about this one strictly. So we had to get them to get with their septic designer to ensure that it would support the ADU. That's what, that's one of the first things we ask, like, well, is your system able to support it? So that's one thing that will, limit the number of homes or ADUs that can be put on a lot like yours. The other thing is we have a maximum number of accessory buildings, period, that can go on any lot. And it is an ADU, so it's still considered an accessory building. Remind me, do you know how many, is it 2 or 3? They've got an accessory building already.
Maximum
It's a
three
maximum.
units.
Yeah.
But
Well, I was just wondering, like in my lot, which I have an acre, the way my lot is set up, I could probably put 2 in the back of mine. I was just wondering if there's something, that there is a guideline, so that it doesn't become, hey, let me build 2 units, pay for my house, and
Right.
don't work anymore.
Right.
And this one is 0.815, almost.
I guess it doesn't specifically address whether you can have 2 ADUs. It addresses the number of accessory buildings you can have in general.
Obviously, because if anybody's ever lived in Florida, that's what people started doing, is turning their garages into separate units, renting them out, or building on an accessory in the back, and then you have 2 tenants basically on a 0 lot line, but they've just started everything in. When you go down the street, you see 5, 6 cars parked across the lines and stuff.
Any other discussion on this item?
Yep.
Motion?
Motion to approve the agenda as presented.
Motion by James to approve, second by Scott. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Approves. Next item is to discuss chapters 7 through 9 of Suburban Nation, the rise of sprawl and decline of the American dream.
Chapter 7, victims sprawl. Both see as victims. Basically, classes of people that sprawl sex.
I guess because I grew up with my kids being in the cul-de-sacs and stuff, I saw it as being positive, but I guess when you're out further, for example, we moved here from Miami, be able to get into that kind of community because the same affordable type neighborhood in Florida would have been another $200,000 more.
But your first talking point here, small children and their autonomy. I look back to where I grew up in Kingsville, which was a small community. If you were home at the time the street lights came on, everything was cool. We could ride downtown, we could ride to, get on our bikes and, we were gone. You can't do that. Not like we did when I grew up. If I wanted to go downtown in Red Oak, the downtown we have, there's nothing there. And everything else is over on the road, and I wouldn't want my kids riding up and down the road. So they're pretty much locked into the neighborhood that they live in. I mean, the street that they live on, maybe not even the neighborhood, but just the street in front. And, the way I grew up, that would have been stifling.
Well, I mean, if you look at Cedar Hill, look at Grapevine, how they redeveloped downtown. Even Cedar Hills, I don't know if you've been there recently, they're turning around where Bates is and putting restaurants and things like that and parks that are walkable to that. It's just that we have that area, we just gotta be able to invest into it because no matter where you go with the growth is in Texas, your kids aren't gonna be able to walk anywhere really. And there's no public transportation out here. I mean, as a says, when you look at the, ride and share, that's still limited for someone like me that's going to the airport.
You just mentioned, you used the word walk. Nobody walks in the middle. I mean, you walk in the neighborhood for exercise. And I see a few people walking probably because they don't have transportation. Other than that, you know, it's been a week in Tampa and a week in Washington, D.C. And other than a couple of Uber rides, everywhere we went, we walked. Because there were restaurants, there were museums, there were shops, everything was within walking distance. We just went over to the new Epic Walk that they've got going in over in South Grand Prairie. So they're putting in, right there at the end of,
Chicken Fiddle and all that.
it's across from Epic Waters, they've got a lake there, they've got a bunch of restaurants going in. We went and had dinner there the other night. There's a senior center there. There's pickleball / restaurant place. We went and checked that out. There's pickleball courts, there's picnic tables, there's families, there's people having, you know. And you just go, you park your car, and you wander around and do your thing. It's really nice. If you haven't been over there, you ought to check it out. There's another one up in
Chicken and Fiddle.
McKinney, no, an area like this, like in McKinney, again, it's on a lake and there's a bunch of restaurants, but you park in one lot and you walk everywhere. And the YouTube video about Fayetteville, the state, right?
Yes.
And I thought about that as I thought about all these places that we've been with. And as Texans, we've become so auto-centric. You get in your car and you go everywhere. And I thought one of the comments they made was, you know, the people were complaining that, well, they get in the car and they go to the restaurant if they could find a spot. And then when they left the restaurant, rather than walk to the bar or walk to the theater, they got in their car and they moved it. And, you know, part of that is our addiction to cars. Part of it is just being lazy. You know?
I think it has a lot to do with the development too, because
Yeah.
if the development is in that area, if you look at Cedar Hill, that little plaza, even though it's not that big, you'd be surprised how many families go out there with their kids and play in the water and go get ice cream and shop and walk. And that area there is actually smaller than, well, it's about the same as Red Oak Legacy Square is gonna be. But that's what we were talking about, the thing I gave last time to send out, Waters Creek, up off of, an hour, which is what Lee and I was looking at. We have the area to do it. It's just getting developers and the concept to build that, because I guarantee you with as many people in Red Oak, if we had somewhere to come and do that, people would come out. Because we don't have it.
You know, you're absolutely right. There's we got the stores that we need to survive, the Walmarts, the grocers, you know, a few little restaurants, but there's nothing that draws people.
Right.
And, you know, I know that we've talked about this the other night, you know, which comes first, the business or the houses?
Right.
You know, people or the businesses. And, you know, pretty convinced, based on the discussion, that we gotta have the people here first. Well, the people are coming. How many housing permits do we have issued right now?
22,
357 housing permits?
that was houses. We had a couple more.
Between the two new apartment complexes, how many units are there?
I want to say it was just over 500, like 535.
You do that, and then you look at all these new neighborhoods that are being platted and everything. We've got a lot of folks coming. Would it be appropriate some evening to have, business development, chamber of commerce, whoever, come in and tell us what's going on, so we can hear what they think, what they're into and what's coming?
Yeah, I guess the chamber is not really,
Maybe not the chamber, but, you know, we've got a business development group, right?
our economic development.
Economic
Yeah,
development, thank you.
yeah,
Well, the difference here is the chamber is, from what I dealt with in Florida, the chamber was a part of the city and was funded. And here is an individual
Yeah.
entity, which they are very
The
limited
business
with.
is part.
Right, which is, they're very limited with, because I sat down with Clint and went through things and talked to, the owner of Chick-fil-A, and they all want to put together something, but we just all have to get everybody together and get on the same page.
yeah, I think they're gonna have their own space in the city hall,
Yeah.
I believe, where they're gonna be involved. Maybe here once a month right now. I don't know if they're gonna be more over there, or if they kind of have dedicated space, but. Our economic development, guys are, you know, they're focused on trying to get the big guys here, you know, they're trying to get like an Albertsons or Top Thumb and things like that. But really, it takes a developer with great connections that can bring a couple of those kind of key players, like if it's, for example, trying to do some kind of restaurant development or something around the lake.
Well, the other thing that we can do, like we talked about, and he said, we need a drawing. It could be like one of the things I talked about, doing like a Red Fest or the baseball tournament, since we put all the money in the field. We need to get something to bring people to Red Oak so they can see. I mean, as long as, if we're not giving people a reason to come look here in the first place, they're not coming. So, I mean, a lot of people over the years that I work with come to Red Oak, now at least 10 or 15 of them live here.
Yeah.
Because, you know, they came down and they saw it, oh, it's really nice, it's not that far. And as we talked about several meetings ago, we're convenient to 45, 287, 20, 35. So, you know, it just depends on how we're able to market Red Oak and bring stuff here, whether it be just food trucks one weekend, even though that's something we really don't do, but maybe we should try, because a lot of people do go out for food trucks. They do the thing over at the old stadium, where they do a weekend of food trucks, and they have thousands of people.
I've been through Ferris when they had a dozen food trucks and several hundred people in Ferris.
And that's something that, you know, we can look at as doing as a community, something to bring people to
draw
Red Oak
people in.
sporadically here or the others. We maybe get with the city council, say, hey, let's pick one weekend to do food trucks somewhere, maybe near the farm, so people can see the farms. Or either do it over here where the movie theater is gonna be, so people know, hey, there's a shopping center coming here. Hey, maybe I can put my new restaurant there. We have opportunities.
What I got out of this, and I apologize, first of all, for not seeing you guys in 3 months.
Welcome back.
Yeah, lot going on. It's kind of scary, reading this chapter, because it's fact.
Yeah.
But it's what we're building.
Yeah.
It's what we're building today. It's what's coming in each time that we approve something. It's going right back into this. And I totally agree with that. And I think we're going to have to take a complete paradigm shift of the city to say, we're not going to keep doing this, because I think that's what we, you know, and there's no one's fault. It's just what's come forward. And, you know, I think that's going to be all the way at the top, a council decision on, do we continue on this path, or do we change the path of what we're bringing and what we're allowing to come in? So, I could go down each one of those, but you know, for the purpose of time, I agree with what I read, and I see it happening, and I agree with, just like you said, we don't have that same ability that we used to go all the way around, but that's a larger city, and we have to link that somehow, and it's gonna take a major paradigm shift from the top to say, this is what we're doing. So, you know, these are true.
You made an excellent point. Is planning and zoning, all that we can do is approve what comes to us.
Exactly right.
And most of what we see is Now it's houses and data centers. And the data centers, while they're nice, they're good neighbors, they're quiet, they don't, do a lot of damage to the environment, but they don't do anything that they bring, considering the square footage, a very small number of people to work in them. Data center is a very, very low head count, not like a manufacturing facility or something like that. So, it doesn't necessarily attract people, but it does impact the tax rolls somewhere down the line.
But I think from my recollection of talking with him in the past, the tax revenue of that would be more so than a distribution center, or something which would have less, it would have a more monetary value effect on us as opposed to doing distribution centers where we're having to repair rooms and having the people in.
Absolutely. But it's, you know, it's not bringing jobs to the community. That's part of the issue. Now, the jobs that they do bring are pretty good jobs. And I've spent the last 15 years in and out of data centers. And I've seen some massive data centers that only had 30 people in a shift. So let's say 30 people times 3 shifts, that's 90 people a day. And throw in a few extras, 150 people for, several 100,000 square feet of commercial space. Great neighbors, but they don't bring a whole lot to the community.
Well, I think, if I'm not mistaken, the numbers were like 750,000.
Square feet?
No, tax abatements per.
Could be. I never
I mean,
saw,
the numbers
I never saw
were,
what the abatements
the numbers from my recollection was very high,
were.
and that was one of the.
It attracts them,
Yeah.
and then, we hope to make our money on the backside.
Because that money could lead to possibly bettering downtown, the sewer systems and things like that, with that type of, if it comes to that. That could be. But was that per, I thought that was per each one.
I don't remember all the details.
Yeah, but I mean, it was significant.
Yeah.
That was one of the reasons why they continued to push it, because of those funds, what it could do with us as far as bettering the city, as far as federal affairs and updating the sewer systems and things along that line.
But the revenue probably doesn't kick in for like 10 years.
It doesn't.
5 years.
If I remember right, there is some abatement, I don't think it was 100% abatement.
No, it was something that we,
So you still collect some
Some,
revenue,
yeah,
but when the abatements fall off, it would be full revenue.
Full.
But, those are probably from if you just physically look at the city, they're probably gonna make up a lot of our shortfall that we had.
3 years.
Yeah, so I would say those are, I wouldn't say saving grace, but they've certainly righted the ship in terms of fiscal sustainability of the entire city. So, we kind of, we're getting a do-over almost.
Yes.
And so now we can start focusing on these things like creating walkable spaces, creating high-value neighborhoods, things like that.
Because I remember talking with them and being at some other meetings, and I was like, hey, look at Lancaster, all these, and when it came down to what they were actually bringing in the taxes and all, that was going to other states and all, this was way more better for the amount of space that it's taken up. Because really, I don't think there's much of anything that you're gonna get that kind of value in that limited amount of space that they're utilizing.
Right, the dollars per acre is
Correct.
quite high.
It's gonna be quite high.
Yeah.
But again, it's nice having them, but that's all they keep bringing us. And that's what we'll keep improving.
Not that much more room for them, even though they're looking for more room to bring.
Our church just sold a bunch of property for another one, right next to us.
Oh, over here?
Right over there.
Oh, well, that one's already, that's
They
been.
just sold another piece of property. There's another one down there.
Well, the one thing from my interaction with it is that because of that power supply that is there,
Mhm.
it's easier for everybody to attach to that Whereas if you want to go do another one on 342 somewhere, you would have to, that development again is, so everybody's tying off of that one fee that is coming in with Google.
Encore will make sure that
Correct.
they're very reliable fees because they've got performance contracts with the data centers.
And from my understanding, the fire department all is on the same thing, so anybody pretty much in the meeting, 2, 3, rarely ever have a blackout, for sure. Also,
Yeah, they watch that grid very closely. Back
Don't get me started on that.
No, well,
No, I'm just saying.
let's go on to,
Yes.
lead us in the direction.
I have
we need to go. I said the whole
rabbit
chicken
chase
thing.
there.
So chapter 8, it kind of addresses how to create these high-value communities, by, first of all, comparing regional cities. And our regional city planning. So they talk about 8 steps of the regional. First one was growth will occur,
All these people complaining about, why is the city allowing me to just go in when the schools are already full capacity? Look at that paragraph about how if you limit the growth, then it's just gonna raise property values. All their complaints.
and growth will occur. It's our job to encourage high quality. We also talked about establishing a countryside preserve, one temporary, one permanent, just to make sure that there's some sort of land that's preserved, temporary, so that in the future we can have a zoning district or some development there, or if it's permanent, we can have some sort of natural landscape permanently be there.
That would-
We've got some natural areas that can't be developed, right? So we've got Red Oak Creek that you can't really do anything with that.
What about
It's a great spot for
the
that.
distancing? One of my neighbors just asked me about that. The
The disc
The
golf.
Cherry Creek, I can
Because that's been
answer that
long.
because I called on it this morning. They're waiting for the Trinity River Authority to release the property back to us.
Okay.
That's what they're waiting for.
And one of the
They don't
neighbors
have
that just
any
moved
idea
in
when
was
it's gonna
asking
happen.
about it.
I called on that this morning.
But for a permanent countryside preserve, the city would almost need to own that property, wouldn't it mean no one's gonna have it if you go to, well,
But when we're doing projects in a subdivision or commercial development wants to be, right along the creek area, we don't necessarily reserve it for the public, unless it's on our trails plan or something like that. But we are, basically saying, well, you can't really build in that area, so let's leave it natural. We always encourage walking trails through it, even if it's not public, maybe just for the residents of the neighborhood or something. Really take those opportunities, see them, especially along drainage ways, because we know we can't build in it, so we like to keep that as natural as possible. Not natural, but manicured natural, right? So we don't, because what they love to do is say like, oh yeah, we're not gonna do anything with that, we'll just make that a nature preserve. It's like, well, let's make it a nature preserve that people can also use. So that means at least, clearing out an 8-foot path to walk down, and the rest can be more natural.
When I read this, it tied into 7 with me, and I'm gonna say something probably unpopular. Yes, the growth is going to come. But again, it's gonna take a paradigm shift to say we need to control the growth, slow down, stop and plan, and put this together, because I don't want history to repeat itself. Why do we have some of the highest water and sewer rates in the area? I was guilty, I was on that council when we said, oh my God, we've gotta have something, we've gotta have sewer, TRA, come on in, and then they did what they did to us. everybody sitting here knows what they did to us. I think that became one of those deals, we said, we're gonna grow, let's just grow, and we didn't stop at any point and say, hey, we wanna build it this way. We don't wanna have this urban sprawl, that, the problems that come along with it. We don't wanna have no ability to put countryside preserves and these kind of things in there. And again, it's maybe an unpopular thing, but I think it's time to slow down and really take a deep look at what we want the community to be before it turns 60,000 or whatever it's gonna be. And I think that time's now. Again, it's not gonna be anything up to us. We're not gonna solve it in this room, but it is here, and I think it really, for y'all's sake as well. I mean, the city staff right now, I know what their job is that if somebody comes in, let's get it done. But from even a higher level, I think it's gonna be, if we need to slow down, if we need to decide, these are the things we wanna do. Do we wanna have proactive permitting? Do we want to have these countryside preserves? Do we wanna have these things? And if we do, slow down a little bit and plan it, before we have another TRA and we're all handcuffed into another situation. I have long been a concern of, do we have the infrastructure? And not just the city, but I'm talking about the grid, I'm talking about a lot of things, and I keep hearing, no, it's okay, we're good, but nobody's been able to really satisfy me that we really are good. I saw when the north end of the Metroplex built, I recall seeing many things of infrastructure being built. I don't see the power plants being built here, I don't see the sewer plant ability to handle this stuff in place. There's, you already see what's happening with the schools. Now let's take that and magnify it, but what are we gonna do as a city? So, again, I don't think it's anybody's fault, I just think that if we're gonna address these things, as this book very nicely talks about, it's gonna take a paradigm shift, and it's gonna take a slow down approach. I don't think whether we slow down a little bit right now is gonna stunt the growth, and it'll never happen.
Right.
But what kind of growth do we want? You can have 60,000 that you don't really care for that community, or you can have it somewhere that you're proud of.
Is this something that the council is looking at as well, or?
No, this is just for the
For us.
planning and zoning.
Because what Scott is saying is true, just like I've talked to you several times, is there's certain places that we all know right here that they change businesses like every year. And again, it goes back to trying to get the kind of businesses that will help the city grow and make it where people want to come to. If we have that restaurant that people want to come to, if we have those ball fields and advertise those fields where people want to come and play. But in order to do that, as you said, we need the hotels here, we need the places to go celebrate our kids' graduation, our anniversaries, because again, as I said, I probably spend 70% of our earned money in other cities because the things aren't here for us that we like.
So we've got a master plan. You sent me a copy of it. I went through this much of it because it's a pretty big document.
Right.
And it's extremely dry.
As most are.
And,
Take a look at the zoning ordinance.
yeah.
Right.
So
Even more exciting.
how does this seems like a more practical guideline than that? How do they tie together?
So the comprehensive plan, we use components of it to steer developers in the correct direction. So there's like there's a section on community enhancement. Like the whole paragraph or page of community enhancement. The livability chapter.
Okay.
So we, for example, someone comes in and wants to do, point them to the livability chapter, say like, we look at the key components of the livability chapter, walkability and all stuff. But like, for example, like over at the Ogres, that's why they have a clubhouse and a pool and walking trails, and they've got sports fields, and like all these things that go to the livability of the community. Now, that's all like kind of outside of nature oriented, but, that's what helps people feel that they don't just live on the inside of their house, right? So that goes to the livability, and so we use components of that. And now from a land use perspective, it kind of gives you a wide array of things that would be, appropriate. So the way to use a comp plan usually is you kind of look at it and say, is use you're proposing, is it in the list of uses that's proposed by the comprehensive plan? And, generally it's areas where it's still kind of use-based, right? So it's like, well, we'll throw a commercial over here, and we'll throw this over here, but it does have some allowances for some flexibility. And ultimately, it's up to you guys in the council, because someone comes in and says, I want to do this, and we say, well, technically it's not a comp plan, so you have to ask for a comp change, and along with the zoning change. Not that big of a deal, but it's something to consider.
And it also allows for a mixture, not strictly.
Yeah, and it's not telling us what to do, it's just saying, here are the options, and then you guys as a city, would look at, okay, well, what's next door? So, it may allow for auto service, and it also may allow for residential. But you've got an auto service next door already, it's like, well, does it make sense to have a residential there, or does it make more sense to have a tire shop here and a auto lube shop here, right? And so that's kind of, it allows for many things, but then it's kind of the responsibility of the community to say, well, that doesn't match the rhythm, right? So we've got this rhythm going on here, and yeah, it does allow what you're asking, but the rhythm would support X, Y, and Z.
So has there ever been a time, and I spoke to two councilmen, I think a year or two ago, about a joint effort, and I guess you can answer because she's been, where the council, the IDC, the EDC get together to kind of do a thing. Because when he mentions what happened with the TRE, and then as in his book, I can attest to, living in Miami for 18 years, you got a train system that goes from nowhere to nowhere for the longest. So again, like what this book said, all of us are like, well, we can't utilize it. And finally, about 15 years later, they did do a branch directly into the airport, finally. But still, it doesn't go to the beach, which is where the majority of the people are coming here. So they went in, and the government up there decided, well, yeah, we can do this, but it needs to be made available for these people here. But it didn't address the needs of everyone. Kind of like the TRE here and the ARC. They go from one part of town to the airport, and another part of town to the airport, but majority of us that are probably flying and working there, we still cannot utilize that service.
They also talked about establishing a priority development sector, in which there would have to be completion of urban infill development prior to the sprawl process. Have any thoughts about that?
Mine's gonna kind of tie right back to the same thing. I think that it's gonna take a slowdown. It's gonna take, stop letting developers control the face of our city, and the city take that back and start deciding what our future is now and in the future, because to that exact point, I believe, moved to quantity over quality of life of what many of us that came to Redwood for. And that was to have the place where you wanted to grow your family. I may not be hitting exactly on your point, but I want to make one while it's in my head. We've all been part of bringing these housing conditions in, but I want to ask just a general question. Camden, which is a nice area, y'all know what I'm talking about out. Okay. Do you feel like that's homeowners, or do you feel like that's renters? Because I can tell you, I thought it was homeowners. I thought that's what we were developing for. I served the civil process up here now. I know that how many I've served just in that area in the last 2 months, and they're all rental properties. And I was blown away. I literally was blown away. And I don't even think it's rental properties. I don't think that's what any of us felt like was coming into these additions. We felt like these were invested homeowners that were investing their home here. And I've served 9 eviction notices on renters over the last 2 weeks in just that addition. So again, slow down, take a big look at it, put these things together that are there, designing the corridors, all these things they're on point. I just feel like they're not gonna be met until we slow down and look at it. Because I was shocked, I'm not lying. When I got all those papers and started serving those, I thought, that's not a homeowner. It's not a homeowner. That's not a homeowner if I serve 9. They're obviously not taking care of the business anyway. And what are we creating? Creating areas that are gonna run down. Facts are facts.
I don't think renters are inherently bad.
I don't
That's
either.
a bridge for people who, just out of college or young marrieds or something like that, who don't have the down payment yet for their own house. I don't know how you maintain the quality of the kind of renters you get, because that's period or 9.
Well, and and again, if they're in eviction, they're not paying the rent, they're not keeping up the places. The owners of the property are, I mean, I won't get into what I see when we do the set outs, but it's just not what I felt we were bringing into the community. And how do you totally control it? I don't know, but I think again, it's a good reason to pause and say, before we have another addition come in of 300, 400, 500 houses, what are we creating? And it brought a lot of, I kind of wish our precinct wouldn't have changed and I wouldn't have been serving papers up in this area. Because when I was down that way, I didn't think anything about this, but, it is, and it's concerning even to the ones that are owning their homes. I've talked to some of the neighbors and they're like, oh Lord, I'm glad, please get them out of here.
Camden, is that the one, I just looked on, is that off of Willow Road,
Yes, sir.
just north and
342.
west of 35?
North of 340.
342?
And again, it's a beautiful area, it's a nice area, but, it doesn't connect, which is one of the things here. There's no way to connect it. It is cul-de-sac type, and what it's worth, I feel like we gotta have a shift.
SPNZ, are there any segments of the housing market that are short?
That we are short, as
And
a
as a city?
I would say we have a good mix of smaller homes, because our base zoning, allow, originally when the zoning ordinance was done, PDs required 16. So that's a pretty small home in today's standard of most cities. A lot of cities don't allow. And a lot of PDs we've been doing lately, to ensure value, right? And that's one of the ways cities try to ensure value, so that's much harder for them to be rentals. The numbers don't work, right? Like, you got $400,000 house.
Right.
You gotta get $3,600 in rent, that doesn't make any sense, right? And so, I would say we probably have a pretty good mix. Now, what I will say that everywhere is middle type housing, townhomes,
Like that new development they're doing by the tribe?
yeah.
Over by Old Town?
Right,
Okay.
yeah, and then we've got some other townhomes that'll be going up, that was done several years ago, but they're starting to build the streets and stuff. But, in the Grand Meadow, the other side of the highway, I guess it's on this side. But I would say that's the type of stuff we're missing. I don't know that it's, I don't know that people are coming here and going, where's all your townhomes? Where's all your, your fourplexes or your manor homes and your two-family homes that I can live in one half and rent the other half? I don't know if people are coming here and saying that, but in Texas especially, in general, that a lot of that's missing. Housing stock standpoint. We only had really the kind of 2 or 3 apartment complexes. So now we're getting the bigger and better ones, let's say, kind of starting to fill that gap. A lot of small communities historically disliked apartments, but because they were not built to the correct form and they were able to be rented out so cheaply that it did bring, they considered blight to the community. What we're building now is much more high end and they bring the working class that is Dallas, professional working class because of the rent.
It's funny,
You probably have to have those types of jobs to afford those.
I had mentioned this before, but here's the article, which is in the business, where Jerry Jones just purchased 120 acres and building $500,000 rental homes right here off I-20 behind Cowboy Church. I mean, if I can rent
How much rental homes?
they're starting around $500,000.
$500,000.
In fact, the lady that, remember the house that we were looking
Yeah,
at?
the one.
She's actually one of the realtors for that and was told, the one that told me about that.
Really?
That, right there behind Cowboy. And here's the article here in the Business Journal, where he's doing 120 acres, it's supposed to be in the 500,000 all range in Ellis County, corner by 20 and 335.
So chapter 9, discuss the inner city and what the urban areas can learn from the suburban areas. Discuss about the amenity package, making sure there's a lot of pedestrian activities, things that are, the businesses that will attract people to come down, to stay, to walk there, and not just do business, drive there, drive back.
I looked at that, and the first thing I thought of was our trail plan that we've had in place, but I've heard that for many, many years, and they still are not there. They're still not connected. They're still not connecting these areas. And the answer was always, well, we have to have the growth in order to have finances to be able to do these things. Seen the growth, but we still haven't seen the connectivity that's there.
Is there a way that we as a city can match developers to kind of, and I think in chapter 8, as well as in this, what there are kind of into what we talked about before, that's what I was talking about, the mixed use, or being able to bring these areas together so we don't need the cars. Or if you're able to go and park your car here, like in the video with Fayetteville, Arkansas. Because, again, you're right, people will go to Brookshire's and then drive to Walgreens and then drive to Caesar's Pizza.
Right.
Sure.
So, yeah, I think we have some projects that are coming through the pipeline, that'll out of that mixed use, component. So, hopefully, if we're working on, I know we can't discuss that specifically.
Right. Well, I mean, but that's what, and Ben knows, I've been pushing Tottenham for 15 years to develop this area here for mixed use, like up there at Ward Street, because it has the hotels, it has the parks, it has the trails, it has the mom and pop shops that people wanna go there too and sit outside and walk. I mean, like, when this was proposed with Tajans, we're supposed to have a walkway around in the mountains and stuff. Which again, that would give people something to come and, you know, be surrounded with, but we just gotta add those things to it. But be careful what we had and how we had it, what value it's gonna bring to us as a city. Because we have some places that are open and they're of no added value really.
We also talked about civic decorum, very clean. Our suburbs have HOAs to maintain areas.
Code enforcement.
It's a very popular code enforcement.
Yeah, I guess it's like, Waxahachie doesn't have a downtown merchants association, I don't think it's part of the chamber of business. And I guess that's, I don't understand do on, came on with a legal organization.
Like residential housing property. That's important to keeping up the value, even though they still get replaced, you know, they're broken, PD gets clean, things like that. Like people to. They also talked about, physical health of the they're making sure that there's sidewalks, making sure that they're wide enough, narrowing the streets, we talked about that during the first 3 chapters, so they're not so wide, and people are driving fast. You know, have any comments on that, making sure that streets are secure, so that people feel safe enough to actually walk down them. And then eliminating parking requirements, like the video that, sharing. Don't think about.
I thought that was interesting.
I thought that was very good. I actually went through and watched some of the other segments that they had. All towns.
Well, that was very interesting. Yeah, you look at our little downtown space. And you've got the little development where we did where they could take the fountain out. I think it's called Legacy. What is it called? Main Street Plaza, I'm sorry. That's great. If we could get some more businesses in there, I have a problem with churches, but those spaces sit idle, 6.5 days a week. So there's no draw to that neighborhood for that. Then you've got, all that open space behind it, and then you've got some of that that's for sale now going into the old downtown. They could all be developed at some point, but that's an area where I think reducing the parking requirements would apply. Because you could go park at Main Street and walk downtown, it's not that far.
Right.
I think one of the biggest problems we have over there is the sewer, right? And the infrastructure in the downtown area.
Yeah, I mean, it's there, the drainage is awful.
So right now, it's an old warehouse, an old field, an old rundown building, there's no attraction to go down there.
Yeah, that was actually another one of their points, was retail management, being tactical and smart about who goes there, how they're advertising, areas. Having proactive leasing, having adequate design, and building funds.
I thought it
Retail management.
made a lot of sense that they said you may want to subsidize certain types of businesses to come there. I think that's probably what you have to do, just to get something going there that's not a couple little businesses, here.
Another donut shop. We don't need any more donut shops.
Yeah.
We don't need any more.
Except that we got 2 more, we got one.
Nail places. We need variety.
But have you guys been to Cedardale downtown lately? I mean, that area has, they changed that over the last 2 or 3
Used to,
years.
it was Babes and the pizza place.
Yeah,
And now we've got
And they're building a mixed-use place right down the corner too.
Yeah. Taking some of those old houses, and turning them into barbecue places and dessert shops and
Cedar Hill,
Cedar Hill, you know,
Right there
old
off of-
downtown Cedar Hill.
yeah, the old town area.
Yeah. It's nice, you know, it's coming on.
I mean,
I noticed, going through, Lancaster the other day, they've got some areas being developed there. You know, and then you've got, Waxahachie, which has got so much natural or, history to it. It makes it easier to develop and attracts people to it. But, they seem to be doing pretty well. Especially, I remember when there wasn't anything downtown, but courthouse. You go see the courthouse, but now there's half a dozen restaurants and wine bars and
Oh, yes.
and antique shops, and now they're reopening the Texas Theater. Well, that's
But you're
part
right.
of it,
But
they need to- they need to-
they're building areas to walk to.
Yeah, that's right, you could park, like some of those lots that I guess would be north of downtown, just up kind of between 77 and College Street, put some parking lots up there by the train track where nobody wants to do anything.
Right.
And just make that a walking space down into downtown.
And I think that's.
You can walk all the way down to the amphitheater, that's a beautiful little space.
Yeah.
We don't have that right now, but we could certainly start working towards something like that.
Do we have
Make
any-
downtown livable.
Do we have any influence, like, can we make a recommendation to city council, they start looking at some of these things, or something?
Or in downtown overlay district, like the downtown overlay district?
Yes, or whether it's that, or the kind of growth we're allowing, or any of these concepts we're talking about.
Well, one of the things I asked, and that we could do it as a body, is of the tax abatements that we're getting, is a certain percentage be set aside for that. That's something that we can ask, that maybe, let's say, $300,000, maybe $50,000 or $75,000 go towards those incentives to help bring in businesses down there.
I was, in our budget request this year, I was gonna be requesting for a downtown overlay. My request would be, for maybe some small area plans, where, consultants would like kind of take a few properties and draw how they can be redeveloped, just to give to somebody who would be developing, but then also kind of initiating a more perform-based code, just in that area, just to ensure, it would be a hybrid, there would be some, that would ensure high-level architecture, and high-quality buildings, just to, ensure that it develops in the downtown or, kind of like your trendy looking modern building down there, right?
What we talked about.
An outline or a blue, diagram of what you would like to see.
Correct, so it'd be, like here, you've got a building, when you're designing a building, you want to break it up into 3 equal parts and have, 2 shop windows and doors, and simple stuff like that. That's almost like an architecture book that you would follow.
There's as you go down, there's a building on the west side, got apartments on the top, businesses on the bottom, where the Dallas, and it's a boring building. I mean, it's a flat facade with little things that stick out over the doors, But across the street is that Austin stone building that's got some movement to it, some detail that makes it more attractive. Say, okay, this is what we want you to come and do, and here's some things that we think that we would recommend you think about doing is a coffee shop as opposed to another donut shop.
Right.
Or, a sandwich place for lunch or, something, But, I like what you said about doing some small areas. How do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. So, do a few, and then you just watch it grow, and then let that
Well,
be
and
the
the
feed for whatever
Or for
happens
really,
next.
how do you pay for an elephant one, budget at a time?
But then they have a built-in customer base with the high school right there. You know, if you bought in smaller stores, sandwich shops and things like that.
Does anybody know is it an open campus? Can the kids leave?
No.
So it would only be after school business.
No, what I consider high school kids.
Yeah, they're not a big,
Well-
other than Whataburger, they're not a big, consumer. But, you know, in that area, this has been discussed many times, and we came in and made, even back when I was on the council, this is gonna be this. The problem was, is we then allowed whoever wanted to put something in one of those existing buildings to come in, and then go out, and then come in, and then go out, and no one was gonna come in and develop that area that they didn't have the entire area to develop. And so, again, it goes back to saying, and we used to get told this a lot, I'm sorry, I keep going back in history, you can't control beyond this, you can't control who comes in beyond this, you can't control beyond this. So we kept getting the same thing over and over. And I think that's what we're gonna get down in that area. You're
Well,
gonna
for the
get one
overlay,
person come
it
in.
would be more specific.
Well,
Once we get that.
Right, but it's also gonna take, again, it's gonna take a higher level saying, that's what we're gonna do. Not when somebody comes in and says, well, hey, I wanna rent that, well, we need to go ahead and get that rented, because we don't wanna have an empty building, we need to rent, and that's, because that's what's happened over many years, is we went from a city that was called very hard to work with, the no developers wanted to come here, all of that, to now they come and they're controlling it. You know, they're controlling what happens, what comes in, and that again goes back to, say, timeout. It's not gonna do that right now.
Yeah, I agree.
We're not gonna do that until we have a real plan, experts, having that much more input. And this is no knock at anybody, but, you know, my time in council, I would look at these guys and say, what do we need to do? Because I'm not them. I don't know their area. You know, I don't know the fire department area, I don't know the Endless area, but they need to have more overall, hey, this is what we need to do, this is what it's gonna take, and we need to slow down from a city standpoint and let them do that, to develop it, because see it as developers are controlling the future of the city right now, today, and all of this is coming true. And I don't think me or anybody else in this room is gonna solve that, but we are looking at it, so hopefully somebody will hear that above. Because these are all very true. Even the retail management, they talk about it here, that's what it is. It's been, we got an empty building, we gotta put something in there. And not, we wanna put this in there. Because that's what's gonna help us grow that particular area. And the downtown area is one that I've looked at for a long, long time. That used to be where I started my career, in the building over there in the downtown area. It was the police department, but, it's never changed. That whole area, other than what has gone away and been wiped off of it, those buildings are the same, and they're mostly sitting empty.
So, speaking of that, if we, hypothetically, the city, as we've been buying property, was to go there and wipe that out, would this be a good opportunity for us to use, like the bill of Arkansas, the changing of the parking parameters? Because I thought about that. If I went and bought that corner and built a building there, there's not enough parking space for me. If I was to buy those 3 buildings, based on today's parking diagrams, I would probably need 25 spots. There's only maybe 10 there. Would this be a good case? And do we have the control to make that change?
So part of what, downtown overlay district is, zoning district, so it would decide basically all of the standard zoning ordinance, it would be the zoning ordinance, it would have its own landscaping own parking, its own, you know, things like that, so it would encompass all of that. In my mind, I would be pushing for much lower parking standards, if not any. Now, obviously, you have to have somewhere to park, so that's why I mentioned the small area plans, you maybe identify one of the lots that you can use as a parking lot.
Well, you're talking about that
The yellow
frame
house.
building right there on the corner where
The
the
yellow
rear stop
house,
sign is?
yeah.
That would be a perfect place for a parking lot, because it's not practical for any kind of building. The building that's there, they just cobbled together to fill the space.
Many years ago.
Many years ago.
Yeah,
When nobody,
We used to farm out that, just across the
yeah,
street.
where nobody, nobody cared. And then, the guy that, 2 years ago was gonna build a little coffee shop with apartments above it, and figured out it was gonna cost more than he thought, probably. And then you've got, a steel building next to it, that's an office building. And I think the next building maybe was the old post office building. And then you've got a street, and then there's a couple of buildings, and then you've got, auto repair. I should remember that, he's my mechanic.
He's good, too.
He is good, and I trust him implicitly. And then next to that's an open lot, and then I think next to that's an open lot, there's nothing on it. So, I mean, there's that, and then if you go across the street, catty corner to that building that you're talking about, there's a big open field with a cabinet manufacturer, or used to be, I think they've gone out of business, back up the way a little bit. So there's a lot of space there that could be developed. The big drawback is the railroad runs through it.
It is, it's fortunate, because it's such a cool piece of history, right?
Yeah.
Like, we wouldn't, this wouldn't even be a city without the railroad.
That's correct.
Right, and so it's almost like, well, okay, let's incorporate it, let's pay homage to it, let's, you know, we got the railroad cafe down there, whatever.
Yeah,
You know,
absolutely. Look, look at Hatchie's, what they've done with their train station. Down there, they've got a nice coffee shop in there, and they got places to sit and relax, and, they're drawing people from downtown down there all the time.
right behind us, too.
All the time.
well, I mean, that's the type of stuff I would love to hear, I'm sure folks would love to hear at a downtown kind of, like, visioning meeting, and I'm sure you probably, like, in 2007, there was a downtown vision plan that had, it was unachievable, I would say. But it was, it was cool, it would have been awesome, but, and we looked at that, and it was ambitious.
It was.
But, you gotta start somewhere, right? But I can see how, what you're explaining, that unless everybody owned that, or one person owned all it, it's extremely hard to put that all together. Anyway, I did want to just let y'all know that's one of my things I'd like to have in our budget this year to do, to reinvigorate that area, especially, because what I would like to do is connect the city hall and downtown, right? So we've got the old neighborhood there that has great historic architecture. We've got not so great stuff that's maybe right for redevelopment, right? But really that, I believe it's, either Waller or College that connects downtown directly to City Hall. Yeah, making that, like a nice road with, trails and maybe some street art or whatever. Creating that area, kind of looking back, kind of to your point, let's look within instead of getting out here.
Right.
Let's look back within and take care of what we already have,
Absolutely.
and really bring that value up.
Even, what is the plan now still, once City Hall open? They're still tearing down all of that, so we'll have more parking. The old,
The old junior high building.
the old, the
County.
Acorn Academy, yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
Because there's some way,
So from there to the football stadium.
so when you make it walkable, if you did have events down there, you got parking there where people can walk up Walmart to the downtown area.
So you could tie that to the Cherry Creek Park, and then probably create a pathway through those neighborhoods, around those neighborhoods, back down to downtown. And as a start, and that would make that whole neighborhood.
Because the city owns that other land on the other side of the graveyard, because we've looked at trying to do an aquatic center, just thinking. So that could all be tied.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's tough.
From Junior's and the Car Detail place.
Yeah.
Down
that
there's
land.
all wide open, yeah, so there's lots of places to do things, if we just had a plan. Now, I'm guessing we need the council and economic development on it, right?
Sure, yeah, ultimately, it would be, one, we'd want tons of input from you guys, tons of input from the council, and then definitely the stakeholders down there.
Yeah.
Want to hear from the residents and the building owners down there. Which I've talked to a few of them, they're gung ho, they want something to happen down there now.
Yeah, if I own Main Street, I'd want something going on, because
Yeah.
there's nothing going on anywhere now.
Yeah, I guess when I talk to them, I've made sure to tell them, we're not gonna come in there and build a bunch of stuff. We're just gonna kind of get, what my vision would be, is to just kind of get out of your way and give you guardrails for what you can and can't do, right? And so that, again, all the architectural standards and how the streetscapes, stuff like that, but allowing them to invest in their property and bring it, higher value.
Started to do this.
Well, since Junior, Randy's closed, what's in there? There's nothing.
Nothing, but I actually did have a conversation with a guy who owns a bike shop, and he wanted to go in there, and I'm like, that's a great thing for down there.
Bicycles?
Yeah.
Yeah.
About the guy that has the shop in not Waxahachie, but
Yeah.
Lancaster.
Yep.
Just something
It's funny,
to attract people down there.
we always talking about being able to downsize the stage and right over, but she's saying with him coming from Lancaster, the neighbors that just moved in, they just came over from DeSoto. So we are a step up for some places,
Mm-hmm.
but again, we need to create these areas like downtown, because I think that was one of my things with those new townhomes. Once those are in there, hopefully we can use those to give people, places to walk, to go have lunch with their kids and go to bike shops, ice cream, and things like that.
The new townhomes going in
Yeah,
to the north, yeah. That would be walkable to downtown, easy. That would absolutely be an easy walk to downtown.
I'll like to bring you guys something all your ideas on. That's all we had.
Okay.
Shall I have anything else?
Close. Motion to close. James? Second. Mayor? 7:56.